Welcome to the Sunday after Mother's Day. We had the most wonderful luncheon. For those of you that weren't there, fellas, I'm sorry you missed it. But we're also, what did you think of the luncheon? Wasn't that fun? We're going to try and convince the social committee to get one together for the fall, as opposed to next month, which is what several people suggested.
It's been suggested that we have a men's breakfast.
You what?
It's been suggested we have a men's breakfast. The men, they want something too.
Men's breakfast, okay. Sharon, did you hear that? We still have people on our list to pray for, so let's not forget about anybody that needs our prayers. And Hank wanted me to make an announcement this week so that everybody knows what's going to go on. Everybody knows about this little golf tournament that's coming up. Next Sunday, there will be 8 trailers? 6. I've had to make it a little more impressive. 6 trailers parked out in the parking lot back here. So you might want to get here a little earlier to get a parking place. They're going to be from the tournament, and the church is getting $5,000 to let them park. So you know what your parking spaces are worth out here.
So what's going on in the trailers?
I don't care.
There's players and other staff from PGA that travel and they live in these trailers. So this is a place where they can park.
Okay. Leslie? Yeah. We have a prayer this morning.
Dear Lord, we gather together with old friends and new in this, our Challengers class, to learn, laugh, and love, as we hope to increase our understanding of how to progress through your beautiful gift of life. We know that you are with us in this endeavor, and for that we're truly thankful. Amen.
We do have visitors this morning. Ken and Pam Dose. Would you stand up so everybody can see where they're going to come over and talk to you? I have known Ken and Pam for a very long time. We were in a Bible study group years ago at First Christian Church. So I've watched their girls grow up, and now they're at Harvard Avenue again. I understand you've been here before.
Yes.
You were here before I was here.
Yes.
Okay.
Many years before you were here. I was just going to say, in case nobody knows, Mike Gardner has the COVID. He came home from a golf tournament, or a golf trip, but I think he's doing all right.
Okay. Don't forget to pray for him too. And Sally, we all give you our sympathies. The loss of your mom. Yeah, that was sad. Am I missing any announcements that have to be made? Yes.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'm still active.
Joanne Ames and I are in charge of the golf outing. It's not really a tournament. It's Monday, June 27th at Bacon Creek, and $50 golf fee. And you can buy an $8 box lunch with Bacon Ranch. Not long from there. But I'll get directions for everybody. And in the next 2 or 3 weeks, you all can sign up and fill this up, and it ought to be hysterically fun.
This is just for women. It's men's only.
Both couples.
I was going to say, I thought it was co-ed. Not being a golfer, I haven't paid much attention to that. Does anybody have another announcement they'd like to make so we keep up on everything? Okay. I have the pleasure this morning of introducing Kim. Kim is a retired disciples minister. She has been a minister right in this area, so a lot of you may have come in contact with her before. But my dearest connection to Kim is her father-in-law, who is a minister and a member at First Christian Church, and the dearest person you'd ever want to meet. Kim, it's all yours. Thank you. Turn myself on. It's not working.
Jan won.
No, Hank's here. Where's Hank? There he is.
I'm here.
But I'm not on
You got
yet.
it on?
Yeah, the little switch won't switch. You want to come
Yeah,
switch?
use it, please.
I always hook it on my pants. Good morning, fellow challengers.
Good morning.
Are you ready to age all over the place with me? That's too bad. First, let's play Who's the Oldest Here? If you wish to participate, you'll be standing or raising your hand. And I'm going to give different age brackets. And if you're in that age bracket, then sit down or lower your hand.
Oh, did I have him Mr. already. Mr. Gary, he's here. He's gonna be 88 next birthday.
Well, he's not the oldest one here.
We'll see. And there is a prize.
Oh, my God.
Okay, if you're going to play, please stand, or if you can, or raise your arm. Okay. Just to make people feel good, if you're younger than 60, sit down. Okay, 61 to 69. All right, 70 to 75. 76 to 80. You're dropping like flies. Okay, 81 to 85. 86 to 90. Going to be 88? Anyone older than this man here? How old are you? 89. 89? Anybody older than 89?
Finally succeeded in something.
Well, I've got Q-tips for you. The ultimate home and beauty tool. Okay. Congratulations. Okie dokie. Now, why the topic of aging? Well, being new to this old age business, I thought I'd finally take a look at this book that was given to me 22 years ago by a parishioner. I really hadn't looked at it yet. Rules for Aging. Resist normal impulses, live longer, attain perfection. And it was written in 2020 by Roger Rosenblatt, but I don't know if he's still alive or not. He's won 2 George Polk Awards at Peabody, an Emmy, and a Robert F. Kennedy Book Prize, editor-at-large at Time Inc. He was the first professor of writing at Long Island University. Just some excerpts from the introduction. There's 58 rules here. I'm just going to share 5. This little guide is intended for people who wish to age successfully or at all. I very much hope that older readers may profit from it as much as younger ones. The rules herein are intended to be purely practical. When I urge you to refrain from a certain thought or course of action, I do not mean to suggest that you are in any way wrong if you do the opposite. I mean only to say that you will suffer. Obviously, a little tongue-in-cheek here. The second rule is nobody is thinking about you. Yes, I know you are certain that your friends are becoming your enemies, that your grocer or garbage man, clergy, sister-in-law, and your dog are all of the opinion that you put on weight, that you have lost your touch, that you've lost your mind. Furthermore, you are convinced everyone spends 2/3 of every day commenting on your disintegration or denigrating your work. I promise you, nobody is thinking about you. They are thinking about themselves, just like you. Rule number 6. Yes, you did. If you have the slightest question as to whether or not you are responsible for wrongdoing, you are. As soon as you think, I really didn't do it, you did.
Come to this conclusion early, act to correct it, and live a lot longer. Come to it late, act to correct it, and live a little longer. Don't come to it at all, never act to correct it, and how are you feeling? In our faith, we call that confession, atonement, and restitution. Rule 21, male and female compatibility rules. A, she's right. B, he's really thinking about nothing. Really? We want to vote on that? Oh, I know you guys have a few thoughts now. Yeah, that's okay. Rule 27, and we ministers love this one. Just because the person who criticizes you is an idiot doesn't make him wrong. You would like to think his idiocy makes him wrong, but it doesn't. Treat all criticism as if it has been produced by the monkey with the typewriter. That is, see it as a lucky shot that happened to hit the mark. That way you can make corrective use of the assault, yet denigrate the source. You still have your pride after all. And then the last one, Rule 29. Envy no one, ever. Envy no one ever. We do not know what that person or persons are going through. And if we follow this rule, it will save us a lot of heartache and wasted time. So one example of a voice or wisdom in this aging process. Speaking of which, when do we start aging? Well, you know, culturally, it seems we Americans think of aging as entering the time frame of retirement or old age. But technically, we could say that we begin aging in utero, in 9 precious months of growth. And then we're born, and then aging really, starts taking off. The biological, developmental, cultural, societal milestones happily anticipated and happily achieved, hopefully. But when do we start dreading getting older? What chronological age?
When I turned 50, I said, I have to admit I'm probably middle-aged, and my son said, how many 100-year-old people do you know?
Well, more. Any other thoughts? When do we start dreading? No, when do we dread? 40? That was we're as young as we feel. I think when I had to go 50, boy, but 60 was even harder. But just depends. I wonder if there's an old age crisis. We talk about the midlife crisis. And again, midlife. What are the ages of midlife, do you think?
40.
I know a lot of you know and remember Harriet Peak. She and Bob remembers at Forest Park for a while when I was pastoring. She had to be in her 80s then. And people, they love her, but she kept insisting she was still middle-aged. So, if you know Harriet, you understand. Well, I went to that, of course, incredible fountain of wisdom, Google, and looked up the age bracket, what people were saying. And for some, it's 45 to 65. They said it was middle-aged. Well, since I'm now 68, as of 11 days ago, I'm 3 years into my old age, and I know women, and possibly men too, love to hear that they look younger than they are. Implying that they're younger than the chronological age. Well, guys, do you like to hear that too? Okay, they're not speaking up, right? Well, in my last pastorate, I had a 99-year-old Frances, and she did make it to 100. Well, she disliked folks, she didn't like hearing that, telling her she didn't look her age. And she said to me, well, what's 99 supposed to look like? What's 82? What's 89? 74? 68? 55, you know. What are these ages supposed to look like? Well, nevertheless, last Sunday, Richard and Peggy's daughter Julia told me that I didn't look 68. And of course, you know, I had to agree with her. So, and as you said, what did they say? You're as old as you feel. If you have your health, you have everything. Well, I now appreciate a phrase that a parishioner told me she kept reminding her father-in-law. Stabilize, then mobilize. You know, referring to, you know, when you're after you stand up, stabilize, then mobilize. Every time I get out of my recliner, I stabilize, then mobilize. Embarrassing as it is to admit. Okay, speaking of moving around, let us move around now to other voices concerning age, the voices found in Scripture. Well, the main one I thought of is Exodus 20:12, the 5th commandment. And this is from the NRSV. Honor your father and mother, so that your days may be long in the land that your God is giving you. Well, for centuries, this commandment has been used and abused by parents to demand obedience and respect from their children. But the reality is that the commandment is more holistic in its family focus. The following information is a mishmash of commentaries. Survival of the elderly is a major concern in this commandment. That is, adult children, make sure your parents are cared for in this new land, this new reality, as life will be a somewhat subsistence level, and the old might be neglected as economically useless. Interesting insight I learned, quote, to honor your mother was the most natural in a polygamous society, where an aging wife might well depend on her son rather than her husband. The broader sense of this commandment is the maintenance of the fundamental unit of society, the family, acknowledging that the mature wisdom of parents can help temper the impulsiveness of youth to sustain an ordered society. As for the having long days in the land your God is giving you, I quote, maintenance of the family is understood to relate to the promise of God that Israel is to be a holy people, faithful to the covenant, through whom God's purpose for humankind is fulfillment. Well, as Christians, we celebrate the covenant that Jesus gave us in John 10:10. I am come that you might have life and have it abundantly. That is, fulfilled. Well, other scriptures to mention that deal with the chronologically gifted, and I first learned that from Richard. Where'd he go? There, did you make that up?
Yes.
Chronologically gifted. All right. The first one is Job 12:12. And this is from the King James Version. With the ancient is wisdom, and in length of days, understanding. Psalm 92:14, and I have several versions. The King James, they shall still bring forth fruit in old age, they shall be fat and flourishing. The NRSV, in old age, they still produce fruit, they are always green and full of sap. And in the Message, they'll grow tall in the presence of God, lithe and green, virile still in old age. Proverbs 16:31, this is King James. The hoary head, H-O-A-R-Y, and the gray head is a crown of glory if it be found in the way of righteousness. And I define righteousness as being in a right relationship with God. Isaiah 46:4, the NIV. Even to your old age and gray hairs, I am He. I am He who will sustain you. I have made you and I will carry you. I will sustain you and I will rescue you. And then last, Titus 2, verses 2 and 3 from the King James, that the aged man be sober, grave, temperate, sound in faith, in charity, and patience. As for the aged women, likewise, that they be in behavior as becometh holiness, not false accusers. A little gossiping going on, ladies? Not given to much wine. Now, not T-O, too much wine, but not given to much wine, and teachers of good things. Well, on that uplifting note, let's turn now to our faith manifested in song. My last pastorate was in First Christian Bartlesville, and we used the chalice hymnal, and I know you all use it here, although we haven't seen it in quite a while. And we sang a song that I'd never heard before. And it's a wonderful summary of our fulfillment and abundance in the Lord. I was there to hear your morning cry. Have y'all ever sung that here? It's wonderful. I was there to hear your morning cry. I'll be there when you are old. I rejoiced the day you were baptized to see your life unfold. I was there when you were but a child with a faith to suit you well. In a blaze of light you wandered off to find where demons dwell. When you heard the wonder of the word, I was there to cheer you on. You were raised to praise the living God to whom you now belong. If you find someone to share your time and you join your hearts as one, I'll be there to make your verses rhyme from dusk till rising sun. In the middle ages of your life, not too old, no longer young, I'll be there to guide you through the night, complete what I've begun. When the evening gently closes in and you shut your weary eyes, I'll be there as I have always been, with just one more surprise. I was there to hear your morning cry. I'll be there when you are old. I rejoiced the day you were baptized to see your life unfold. I love it. It's good. Okay. Well, I made a list of hymns from my experience that people of faith have leaned on through the seasons of their life, and by no means exhaustive. These hymns are what I call traditional, and some are oldie-goldies. When the roll is called up yonder, in the sweet by and by, nearer my God to thee, it is well with my soul. Precious Lord, take my hand. Amazing grace. And your verse you wrote is just wonderful. They're just wonderful. His eye is on the sparrow. A mighty fortress is our God. Twice I used that with the congregation. The first was the Murrow building bombing. And what we did, I stood at the back and we sang as an opening, we sang the hymn, and I carried in the Christ candle. The second time was 9/11. And again, from the back with the Christ candle as we sang, A Mighty Fortress is Our God. I'll fly away when we all get to heaven. The solid rock. I love singing that song, but I have to remember it as on Christ, the solid rock I stand. I'll never forget Tammy Faye, poor Tammy Faye, when all the Jim Baker, Jim stuff unraveled and they had her on camera and she was crying and the makeup rolling down her face, on Christ, the solid rock I stand. So I always think of Tammy when we sing that song. And then the Mitch Miller hymn. How many remember the Mitch Miller show? Okay, remember in the bouncing ball on the lyrics to da-da-da-da-da? Oh God, our help in ages past, our help for years to come. Na, 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 na. It's great. Mitch Miller, okay. Are there other hymns or faith songs that have helped you?
Victory in Jesus.
Think of that. Yes, victory in Jesus. I hear monthly. This is going to be a shorter lesson. He lives. Good Lord, where was I? Yes, of course. And I know it's hard to just pop up.
In the garden.
In the garden. Let me tell a story about it. I heard from a speaker at a minister's meeting, and he was kind of poo-pooing what he considered conservative, whatever, and he mentioned in the garden, and he really just slammed fast to that methodology or whatever. And then he said, he had shared that also at another place, and afterwards, a woman had come up to him, and she told her story, and she said that she had been sexually abused by her father, growing up, and that she would go and sing that hymn. He walks with me, he talks with me, and that would give her peace, singing that hymn. And he said, of course, he was just very humbled and devastated by what she told him. I always remember that when we sing in the garden. Well, any others? Golly, those are I wasn't thinking straight, was it? Yes, of course, how great thou art. That's a fun congregational song, isn't it? You got all the different octaves. Secular songs addressing older age. Well, two popular ones that came to my mind.
I did it my way.
Absolutely. Agree to that. Go, girl. Of course, you know me. The Beatles. When I'm 64. Well, Mark sang part of that to me at our wedding rehearsal dinner. When I get older, losing my hair, many years from now. Exhibit A. I'm walking home. Will you still be sending me a Valentine, birthday greetings, bottle of wine? If I'd been out till 2:45, would you lock the door? Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64? Well, since Mark and I are both 68, I don't know if there's any statute of limitations on all that. And then that feisty, oh my goodness, could have brought more things to tell you. And then that feisty little old lady from Pasadena by Jan and Dean. Here's the chorus. And everybody's saying that there's nobody meaner than the little old lady from Pasadena. She drives real fast and she drives real hard. She's the terror of Colorado Boulevard. It's the little old lady from Pasadena. Go, Granny, go. Remember that, don't you? Okay. Well, I'm glad I brought this extra.
Kim.
You're still the one. That's enough. You're still after all these years.
You're still the one. You're still the one.
After all these years.
Oh, that's a different one.
Yeah.
Would you like to sing it for us? I wonder.
The roster was nice, and your teeth are gone also. The roster is on.
It's not
Dental song.
It's a dental song.
Hair gone and I'll fill you around.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
There's one from the movie Gigi, where the couple is singing and he says you will wear heels.
Yes. Yes. He couldn't remember anything right.
It all makes sense.
Absolutely.
That was all.
Yes, ma'am.
The old gray hair.
That's not a horse. there are words to that song.
Oh, yeah.
I just thought the piano.
Oh, yeah.
Can you sing it for us?
No.
Can you say it?
When the leaves fall down.
Window, the autumn leaves are bright gold.
Yes. Okay. Yes, Mark. Still talking?
There's one I caught hello in there. Hello in there is.
That never sings that.
Go by accident, but, all rivers that just go by, see, all trees, all rivers, all people that just grow open. And, it's always a good mantra.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Bette Miller sings it. What's the title again?
Hello in there.
Hello in there. Yes, talking to someone. And the woman's talking, we lost the baby in the Korean War, still don't know what for. Yeah.
About Cat Stevens and the Morning Has Broken.
I thought you were going to say the Cat in the Cradle. Yeah. Morning has broken. Okay, yes.
That's in a lot of hymns.
That's right. And the old, does he say God's recreation instead of recreation?
Yeah.
Gotcha, Cat. Yeah, okay. Let's just go down memory lane here. Any others?
How about Old Man River?
Old Man River.
It's gotta be a bass, gotta be a bass.
The one Janet was talking about, still the one is a Shania Twain song.
Yeah.
And it's about,
Oh,
you know,
still.
two people together.
Okay.
together.
I love song. Then they divorced. Oh, well, that's, that happens, okay. Well, I'm glad I brought this, and I cannot remember how I came across this, but this is a sermon by Rabbi Charles Sherman, who's, retired now from Temple Israel, and I've run across him in various ministerial things. Mark taught his sons chemistry.
All his kids.
All his kids. How many does he have?
3.
3. Yeah, Mark was a Booker T for 27 years, so we can't go anywhere where somebody's saying, Mr. Haynes, Mr. Haynes. I mean, hardly anybody, from my church would acknowledge me if they saw me anywhere. But, in the weirdest, okay. Anyway, he gave this sermon at Oslo's Unitarian on July 23rd, 2006. And I'm just going to read a few little excerpts. He's talking about caregivers. According to former First Lady Rosalind Carter, there are only 4 kinds of people in this world. Those who are caregivers, those who were caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need help, need the help of a caregiver. That pretty much sums it up. When you were a small child, when your parents seemed so all-wise and all-strong and all-powerful, when they fed you with a spoon while you sat in a high chair, could you have ever imagined that sometime the roles would be reversed and someday you would be the one who feeds and that they would be the ones who are to be fed? There is an old Yiddish proverb that says, when parents feed children, they both laugh. When children feed parents, they both cry. It is almost unimaginably hard to be a caregiver. When you are a caregiver to someone whose mind and or body have been greatly diminished by illness, so much of your life is consumed by caregiving. There is so little relief and so little respite, and often too little appreciation from the one for whom you are caring. I believe that Judaism offers wisdom and guidance to those who face this challenge today or who may face it in the future. Let me share with you 3 lessons, and I'm just going to share 2, which Judaism teaches those who are caregivers today or who may have to become caregivers tomorrow. First, you have the moral right to follow the advice of the Rambam Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon, one of the greatest thinkers in Jewish law and philosophy, and also an outstanding physician. Maimonides says it very clearly. If the task of caring for a parent becomes beyond your strength, then you have the right to turn over the task to one who is more competent, to one who is less emotionally involved, to one who will do it with you or instead of you. Maimonides says that there are limits to what a human being can do. If you reach that limit, then you are allowed to hire help, and you are allowed to bring your loved one to an agency, an institution that is set up to care for him or her, and you are allowed to share this difficult task. For if you do not, then you will collapse. And why should there be two who are ill instead of just one? The second thing that Jewish tradition has to say to all of us is that the Shekinah, God's holy presence, hovers over the bed of one who is sick. What does that mean? I believe it means that when we look upon the face of someone who is ill, frail, impaired by disease, it is a mitzvah. I mean, that's a precept. It's a good deed done from religious duty. It is a mitzvah to remember and never forget that this person, even in his or her illness, even in his or her dementia, even this person who can no longer speak or think, even this person who can no longer recognize us or who can no longer even recognize him or herself, is still nevertheless created in the image of God. That person is still made in the image of God, and therefore that person is still deserving of our care and our compassion and our respect. And then lastly, there's also a beautiful midrash, and that's rabbinic commentary on the scripture. There is a beautiful midrash which says that when Moses came down from Mount Sinai and saw the people dancing around the golden calf, he smashed the 2 tablets of stone on which the 10 commandments were written. Eventually Moses went back up the mountain, brought down the second set of tablets as holy as the first set of commandments. Then the midrash asks, what did Moses do with the broken pieces of the first set of commandments? Our tradition teaches that he placed those broken pieces in the ark right next to the set, which was complete. Both the complete set of commandments and the broken pieces were put into the ark. Why? In order to teach us that that which was once holy remains holy, even in its broken state. In order to teach us that broken people, senile people, people with Alzheimer's, people with Parkinson's, are still holy. People who are once holy remain holy, even in their broken state. I love that. Wonderful. Wonderful. All right. Golly. That was a long time. All right. We're heading out to the finish. A few more miscellaneous voices and perspectives. Okay, I trust you've seen Dr. Rick's teachings on progressive commercials about helping young adults not turn into their parents. Oh, they are so funny. I love those commercials. But I'm sorry, I see nothing wrong at all with some of the practices that Dr. Rick poo-poos. You know, there is absolutely nothing wrong with the paper airplane boarding pass. You know, other things that you've seen on those commercials that you don't agree with?
Checking out your insurance all the time.
Yes, yes, checking out your insurance all the time.
Talking on your cell phone, on speaker, up here.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Parking a while, yeah, that's a good idea. Do you want to get stuck for hours waiting to get out of the darn parking lot? You know, but Dr. Rick's comments are just, just wonderful, wonderful. The throw pillows, anyway. So, that's just a comment about this whole aging thing. I have jokes on lots of topics gathered over the years, some from parishioners, and some I, looked for as the tail twister for the Lions Club I belong to in Lawton. Are there any lions here in the class? Ooh, all right, in the back. Well, the tail twister, it's a takeoff on a lion. Lions have a tail. And this person, basically in my club, it sort of devolved to, we were the entertainment for a few minutes at each club meeting. And so basically it just kind of turned into telling jokes and an occasional, making fun of one of the members or something. There was a practice that is a way of raising money for the club, but the tail twister could find people, even if they didn't do anything wrong. You can make something up or whatever. And apparently that was a real big deal. But I told them, and I was honest, I said, if I'm going to accept this, just be clear, I'm a pastor and I'm not going to find people. Anyway, so they lived with that. Okay, this first one is about family relations. A man in Florida in his 80s calls his son in New York one November day. The father says to the son, I hate to tell you, but we've got some troubles here in the house. Your mother and I can't stand each other anymore, and we're getting a divorce. I've had it. I want to live out the rest of my life in peace. I'm telling you now, so you and your sister won't go into shock later when I move out. Well, he hangs up, and the son immediately calls his sister in the Hamptons and tells her the news. The sister says, I'll handle this. She calls Florida and says to her father, don't do anything till we get there. We'll be there Wednesday night. And the father agrees, all right. The man hangs up the phone and hollers to his wife, okay, they're coming for Thanksgiving. What are we going to tell them for Christmas? This is about marital relations. An older couple were lying in bed one night, and the husband was falling asleep, but the wife was in a romantic mood and wanted to talk. She said, you used to hold my hand when we were courting. Wearily, he reached across, held her hand for a second, and tried to go to sleep. A few moments later, she said, then you used to kiss me. Mildly irritated, he reached across, gave her a peck on the cheek, and settled down to sleep. 30 seconds later, she said, then you used to bite my neck. Angrily, he threw back the bedclothes and got out of bed. Where are you going? She said, to get my teeth. Now this one's my all-time favorite. It's one of the little old lady jokes. Two elderly women were out driving a large car. Both could barely see, over the dashboard. As they were cruising along, they came to a major crossroad. The stoplight was red, but they just went on through. Well, the woman in the passenger seat thought to herself, I might be losing it. I could have sworn we just went through the red light. After a few more minutes, they came to another major junction, and the light was red again. Again, they went right through. Well, the woman in the passenger seat was almost sure that the light had been red, but was really concerned that she was losing it. She was getting nervous. At the next junction, sure enough, the light was red, and they went on through. So she turned to the other woman and said, Mildred, did you know that we just ran through 3 red lights in a row? You could have killed us both. Well, Mildred turned to her and said, oh, am I driving? Well, I'm a visual person, and I want to share 2 visuals that continue to remind and bless me as I age. And this hangs by my bed. It's a quote by Irma Bombeck. Did we hear anything about Irma? I said, she dead?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter, but anyway, you just don't hear, you know.
She used to have a little piece in the newspaper.
That's right. That's right. How many of y'all still get the newspaper? Yeah. And it's so expensive. It's getting, I like that one, the 7 little words. I love it. Okay. Here's what Irma says. It kind of, well, the word, kind of makes me say, oh, Kim, you need to do better. Anyway, when I stand before God at the end of my life, I would hope that I would have not a single bit of talent left and could say, I used everything you gave me. Yeah, it's kind of. And this next one is from the Episcopal Book of Common Prayer. Since I've got time, when I did my chaplaincy residency in Boston, they graciously found a place for me to live in Cambridge in the Episcopal Divinity School, which was a liberal divinity school, co-ed bathrooms. The little old lady that took me around, the house, and she took me in the bathroom. She said, "This is, for both, male and female." I'm like, "What?" She said, "Oh yeah, well that's how we do it here." I said, "Well, that's not how we do it in Oklahoma." Anyway, but I've learned a lot about, Episcopal denomination and the practice of Vespers, where they would gather. It's in the Book of Common Prayers, liturgy and certain things. And so, fellow students would hold their Vespers in the dorm room or whatever, and invited me to come, and I went a few times. Anyway, this little snippet is a prayer from the Episcopal Book of Prayer. And this came from Charles Starosky. When I was a fairly new pastor at Forest Park, I was told that one of the members, Charles Starosky, must have been in his late 70s, early 80s, at some point would make an appointment to come in and talk to me and give me his funeral plans, as he had done with the previous pastors. So, the time came, and I was ready for him. He came in, and he gave me his funeral plans, and I was looking at them, and I just calmly said, "And do you have a date in mind?" And he laughed, and he looked at me, and he said, "You're funny." And I did have the honor of doing his funeral. He was a professional calligrapher, so we had examples of his calligraphy around. So I asked him, and we were thrilled to use his skills, for various things we did there in the ministry. And I asked him if he would calligraphy this prayer. And he made this wonderful little thing for me. You can see that in calligraphy. Anyway, I think this is the most complete prayer that I've ever heard. Guide us waking, O Lord, and guard us sleeping, that awake we may watch with Christ, we may be on duty with Christ, and asleep we may rest in peace. Guide us waking, O Lord, and guard us sleeping, that awake we may watch with Christ, and asleep we may rest in peace. I mean, that covers it. That covers it. And then, lastly, I've used this book with you before. It's called Hope as Old as Fire, and this is a book of meditations by Stephen Charleston. This was given to me by the prayer group I led at First Christian Bartlesville. I have been so blessed over the years with different parishioners in the congregations I've served. I have learned so much. Anyway, this is, as I said, a book. He's an Episcopal bishop and the Choctaw tribe. So, the Native American spirit infuses him. And this meditation speaks to what we've been talking about this morning. That is change. I get so frustrated with folks that say, I don't like change. I'm going to go, well, too bad. And I hope that doesn't refer to your underwear. So don't let me hear you say you don't like change. In heaven on high, a hand unseen turns a page, and your life changes. How much of life is spent changing? Waiting for change? Surprised by change? Riding change like white water through an uncertain canyon? Change comes as it will. Be patient if it is slow. Be balanced if fast. In all things, know change for what it is, your teacher. Do not be afraid, for the changeless one never turns a page without purpose. That's all I got.
And she led right up to the topic that I was going to put off until the end because I figured it might go too long. Changing the time of the Sunday school class. Tuesday morning, I had it on my list to call David and tell him we weren't going to meet at 9 o'clock anymore. We were going to meet at 9:15. I got a call from David Embry Tuesday morning. And he said, Kay, I don't want you to be blindsided by this, but we're changing the time of the service. So everybody that got the notice that church will be at 9:30 and 11, we're going to go with that. We're going to go ahead and change. We had originally said June 1st, but I think that the notice said Memorial Day weekend. So we'll just go ahead and do that. Now the thing that, I want you to think about is a lot of people were complaining about the half hour between the services. So think about whether you want to meet at 9:30 or at 9:45. So think about it. We're going to give people ready to go.
They have to take about 30 seconds to vote.
Well, we're not all here to, but I mean, think about what the difference is.
So should we let you know, or?
No, we'll vote on it next week. Yeah, we'll, think about it. One of the problems is that deacons and elders and choir members and that have to leave if we only have 15 minutes. So there are things to consider other than what we, our first thought. So, and my second thing is don't forget to return your name tag. Introduce yourself to the doses. Have a good week.